By having multiple bad guys of varying degrees, In Time used a rare concept within a concept movie.
Canada be damned. I'm going to the Klondike.
The Klondike is Canada.
Giorgio, you be doing just fine, brother.
It's always exciting to see a winner. When a film does well at the box office, it can generate more press, and therefore more interest and revenue. But when a film does poorly, pretty much nothing can save it from cascading further. Once those initial opening weekend figures hit the streets, and the critics have mostly mirrored that turnout, it's almost impossible to turn the tables, regardless how much positive press and returns work in favor of recovery. Those early accounts are the narrative, and they'll be so in stone for eternity. 2011's In Time is one of those films, and I'd like to take the time to explore why it is, but more importantly, why it shouldn't be. In Time takes place in another time, a time much different from today.
This is a mess.
Welcome to my world.
It's further into the future, and like many movies set in the future, life has evolved technologically, but has taken a step back socially. Human beings have now become genetically engineered to stop aging at 25, at least on the surface.
Confusing times. Is she my mother, my sister, my daughter? You're hoping she's not my wife. Allow me to introduce my mother-in-law, Clara, my wife, Michelle, and my daughter, Sylvia. I believe you two have already met.
People are outfitted with a built-in timer, which counts down their lifespan to the second. Those timers can be used both as a lifespan monitor and a wallet, because in this world, time is both a clock and a currency. Goods and services can be bought and sold simply by linking arms and transferring time, or funds, depending on how you use it. People now live in different time zones, and your place in society depends on which zone you reside in. The rich, with all the time in the world, live in New Greenwich and lead a cushy, immortal life with no worries and no regard to the outside world.
What do you do, Will?
Haven't quite figured that out yet.
Yes, why bother? What's the hurry?
Right. Why do today what you can do in a century?
Whereas the poor live in the ghetto and live, literally, day to day.
I've only ever had a day. How much do you need?
But when a man from New Greenwich makes his way to the ghetto and has his life saved by our lead, Will Salas, played by Justin Timberlake, the man donates all of his time to his savior. Now, with all this time on his hands, or arm, Will goes to New Greenwich in an effort to change the system.
Welcome to New Greenwich. What are you really doing here?
I'm gonna take them for everything they've got. I'm gonna make them pay.
In the process, Will kidnaps the daughter of one of the richest men in the world, Sylvia, played by Amanda Seyfried, and after a case of Stockholm Syndrome, the two work together to dodge all authority figures, upend the system, and hopefully create equality among the classes. Clearly, In Time is a concept-heavy movie, and the premise is one which is absorbed by several facets of the movie, like the set and costume design. The rich wear chic, stylish clothing, whereas the poor typically wear the clothes of the working man. In both boroughs, the design is stripped away of all detail and most color, much like other futuristic dystopian Andrew Niccol worlds. That divide can be also seen in how the classes view and treat time.
There's nothing I cannot buy.
Does everyone in the ghetto steal?
That's rich coming from you.
How dare you steal from me?
I don't think of it as stealing.
No?
Think of it as repossession. I'm gonna leave you with what I've had most every day of my life. One day.
One day. Are you insane?
You could do a lot in a day. What have you got?
11 hours. How does anyone live like this?
You don't generally sleep in.
This outlook on this society's lifeblood is exactly what I think makes the villains of In Time fascinating. In Time is not limited to one villain, but primarily 3. The good,
Philippe Weiss.
the bad,
I'm timekeeper Raymond Leon.
and the ugly.
Name's Fortins.
Vincent Kartheiser plays Philippe Weiss, wealthy businessman and father to Sylvia. His interests lie just as much in the recovery of his kidnapped daughter as it does with maintaining the status quo of the system.
For a few to be immortal, many must die.
His motivations are selfish, yet despite his enormous wealth, he cannot completely alter the system in his favor when desired. Therefore, even though he has vastly more freedom and opportunity than the poor, Philippe is still at the mercy of the system. The head crime boss of the ghetto's Minutemen, Fortis, played by Alex Pettifer, is more of the usual villain. His motives are solely fueled by greed, and there's not much depth to him, which is what makes him the baddest of the bad. The most intriguing of these 3 is the head timekeeper, played by Cillian Murphy. Being a senior officer of this society's law enforcement, the timekeeper is kept on a short leash by how much time is on his side. However, what power he lacks with time, he makes up for with authority. Having the discretion to wield his power upon society, the timekeeper is in control of outcomes, even if those outcomes are hypocritical or in violation of the law. For example, he allows looters to leave with stolen time, yet confiscates time which was legally obtained. But unlike Philippe and Fortis, the timekeeper doesn't do things for personal gain. In fact, it's never unveiled if he has any personal goals, and everything he does is in the name of public service.
I didn't start the clock. I can't turn it back. I keep it running. I keep time.
For me, this is what makes the timekeeper respectable. As immoral and as gross as the system is, the timekeeper believes in it without compromise for self-interest.
If it's a matter of resources, I'm happy to make a contribution.
I have issued a warrant for your daughter's arrest. If she contacts you and you assist her in any way, I will issue a warrant for your arrest.
Perhaps this nobility can only be found in comparison to In Time's other villains. We'll never know that for sure, but these various levels of bad guys within one film is what makes In Time distinctive. As I said off the top, In Time wasn't a runaway hit upon its release. It did poorly its opening weekend, and it was panned by critics. But the press has a tendency to have tunnel vision on opening weekend, and after that, it doesn't matter what happens. So, even though In Time did ultimately turn a profit, it was permanently stained with the flop Scarlet Letter. So just to be clear, I've included this video as part of our guilty pleasures, not in relation to finances, but public opinion. And since you've been kind enough to give me some of your time, if you haven't seen it already, please give In Time some of yours as well.